An author, James Allen, born in 1864. He was a British philosopher, writer, and poet, known for his inspirational books and poetry. And just wanted to give this little read real quick and share it with you guys. I'm not the best reader, so bear with me. This is called The Power of Meditation. Spiritual meditation is the pathway to divinity. It is the mystic ladder which reaches from earth to heaven, from error to truth, from pain to peace. Every saint has climbed it. Every sinner must sooner or later come to it. And every weary pilgrim that turns his back upon self and the world and sets his face resolutely towards the Father's home must plant his feet upon its golden rounds. Without its aid, you cannot grow into the divine state, the divine likeness, the divine peace, and the fadeless glories and unpolluting joys of truth will remain hidden from you. Meditation is the intense dwelling in thought upon an idea or theme with the object of thoroughly comprehending it. And whatsoever you constantly meditate upon, you will not only come to understand, but will grow more and more into its likeness. For it will become incorporated into your very being, will become in fact your very self. If therefore you constantly dwell upon that which is selfish and debasing, you will ultimately become selfish and debased. If you ceaselessly think upon that which is pure and unselfish, you will surely become pure and unselfish. Tell me what that is upon which you most frequently and intensely think, that to which in your silent hours your soul most naturally turns, and I will tell you to what place of pain or peace you are traveling, and whether you are growing into the likeness of the divine or the bastile. There is an unavoidable tendency to become literally the embodiment of that quality upon which one must constantly think. Let therefore the object of your meditation be above and not below, so that every time you revert to it in thought, you will be lifted up. Let it be pure and unmixed with any selfish element. So shall your heart become purified and drawn nearer to truth, and not defiled and dragged more hopelessly into error. Meditation is the spiritual sense in which I am now using it, in the secret of all growth in spiritual life and knowledge. Every prophet, sage, and savior became such by the power of meditation. Buddha meditated upon the truth until he could say, I am the truth. Jesus brooded upon the divine immanence until the last he could declare, I and my Father are one. Meditation centered upon divine realities is the very essence and soul of prayer. It is the silent reaching of the soul towards the eternal. Mere propitiatory prayer without meditation is a body without a soul, and is powerless to lift the mind and heart above sin and affliction. If you are daily praying for wisdom, for peace, for loftier purity and fuller realization of truth, and that for which you pray is still far from you, it means that you are praying for one thing whilst living in thought and act another. If you will cease from such waywardness, taking your mind off those things, that selfish clinging to which debars you from the possession of the stainless realities for which you pray, if you will no longer ask God to grant you that which you do not deserve, or to bestow upon you that love and compassion which you refuse to bestow upon others, but will commence to think and act in the spirit of truth, you will day by day be growing into those realities, so that ultimately you will become one with them. He who would secure any worldly advantage must be willing to work vigorously for it. And he who would be foolish indeed, who waiting with folded hands, expecting it to come to him for the mere asking. Do not then vainly imagine that you can obtain that heavenly possession without making an effort. Only when you commence to work earnestly in the kingdom of truth will you be allowed to partake in the bread of life. And when you have, by patient and uncomplicating effort, earned the spiritual wages for which you ask, they will not be withheld from you. If you are really seeking truth and not merely your own gratification, if you love it above all worldly pleasures and gains, even that happiness itself, you will be willing to make the effort necessary for its achievement. If you would be freed from sin and sorrow, if you would taste of that spotless purity for which you sigh and pray, if you would realize wisdom and knowledge, and would enter into the possession of profound and abiding peace, come now and enter the path of meditation, and let the supreme object of your meditation be truth. At the onset, meditation must be distinguished from idle revere. There is nothing dreamy and unpractical about it. It is a process of searching and uncompromising thought, which allows nothing to remain but the simple and naked truth. Thus meditating, you will no longer strive to build yourself up in the prejudices, but forgetting self, you will remember only that you are seeking the truth. And so, you will remove one by one the errors which you have built around yourself in the past, and will patiently wait for the revelation of truth, which will come when your errors have been sufficiently removed. In the silent humility of your heart, you will realize that. Select some portion of the day in which to meditate, and keep that period sacred to your purest pose. The best time is the very early morning, when the spirit of repose is upon everything. All natural conditions will then be in your favor. The passions, after the long bodily fast of the night, will be subdued. The excitements and worries of the previous day will have died away, and the mind, strong and yet restful, will be receptive to spiritual instruction. Indeed, one of the first efforts you will be called upon to make will be to shake off lethargy and indulgence, and if you refuse, you will be unable to advance, for the demands of the Spirit are imperative. To be spiritually awakened, it is also to be mentally and physically awakened. The sluggard and the self-indulgent can have no knowledge of the truth. He who proposed of health and strength wastes the calm, precious hours of the silent morning, and drowsy indulgence is totally unfit to climb the heavenly heights. He whose awaking consciousness has become alive to its lofty possibilities, who is becoming to shake off the darkness of ignorance in which the world enveloped, rises before the stars have ceased their vigil, and grappling with the darkness within the soul, strives, by holy aspiration, to perceive the light of truth, while the unawakened world dreams on. No saint, no holy man, no teacher of truth ever lived who did not rise early in the morning. Jesus habitually rose early and climbed the solitary mountains to engage the Holy Communion. Buddha always rose an hour before sunrise and engaged in meditation. and all his disciples were enjoined to do the same. If you have to commence your daily duties at a very early hour, and are thus debarred from giving the early morning to systematic meditation, try to give an hour at night. And should this, by the length of the laboriousness of your daily task, be denied you, you not despair. For you may turn your thoughts upward in holy meditation in the intervals of your work. Or in those few minutes which you now waste in aimlessly, and should your work be of that kind which becomes by practice automatic, you may meditate while engaged upon it. The eminent Christian saint and philosopher Jacob Boehme realized this vast knowledge of divine things whilst working long hours as a shoemaker. In every life there is time to think, and the busiest, the most laborious, is not shut out from the aspiration and meditation. Spiritual meditation and self-discipline is inseparable. You will therefore commence to meditate upon yourself so as to try to understand yourself. For remember, the great object you will have in view will be to complete the removal of all your errors in order that you may realize truth. You will begin to question your motives, thoughts, and acts, comparing them with your ideal and endeavoring to look upon them with a calm and impartial eye. In this manner, you will continually be gaining more of that mental and spiritual equilibrium without which men but helpless straws upon the ocean of life. If you are given to hatred or anger, you will meditate upon gentleness and forgiveness, so as to become actually alive to a sense of your harsh and foolish conduct. You will then begin to dwell in thoughts of love, of gentleness, of abounding forgiveness, as you overcome the lower by the higher. There will gradually, silently steal into your heart a knowledge of the divine law of love, with an understanding of its bearing upon the intricacies of life conduct. And in applying this knowledge to your every thought, word, and act, you will grow more and more gentle, more and more loving, more and more divine. And thus, with every error, every selfish desire, every human weakness, by the power of meditation, is it overcome. And as each sin, each error is thrust out, a fuller and clearer measure of the light of truth illuminates the pilgrim's soul. Thus, meditating, you will ceaselessly fortifying yourself. Your only real enemy, your selfish, perishable self, and will be establishing yourself more and more firmly in the divine and imperishable self that is imperishable from truth. The direct outcome of your meditation will be a calm spiritual strength, which will be your stay resting place in the struggle of life. Great is the overcoming power of the holy thought, and the strength and knowledge gained in the hour of silent meditation will enrich the soul with saving remembrance in the labor of strife, of sorrow, or of temptation. As by the power of meditation you grow in wisdom, you will relinquish more and more of your selfish desires, which are fickle, impermanent, and product of sorrow and pain, and will take your stand with increasingly steadfastness and trust upon unchangeable principles, and will realize heavenly rest. The use of meditation is the acquirement of a knowledge of eternal principles, and the power which results from meditation is the ability to rest upon and trust those principles, and so become one with the eternal. The end of meditation is, therefore, direct knowledge of truth, God, and the realization of divine and profound peace. Let your meditation take their rise from the ethical ground which you now occupy. Remember that you are to grow into truth by steady perseverance. If you are an Orthodox Christian, meditate ceaselessly upon the spotless purity of divine excellence of the character of Jesus, and apply his every precept to your inner life and outward conduct, so as to approximate more and more towards his perfection. Do not be as those religious ones who are refusing to meditate upon the law of truth and to put into practice the precepts given to them by their master. Are content in formally worship to cling to their particular creeds and to continue in the ceaseless round of sin and suffering. Strive to rise by the power of meditation above all selfish clinging of partial gods or party creeds, above dead formalities and lifeless ignorance, thus walking the highway of wisdom with mind fixed upon the spotless truth. You shall know no halting place short of realization of truth. He who earnestly meditates first perceives a truth, as it were, afar off, and then realizes it by daily practice. It is only the doer of the world of truth who can know the doctrine of truth. For thou by pure thought and truth is perceived. It is only actualized by practice. Said the divine Gautama, the Buddha, he who gives himself up to vanity and does not give himself up to meditation, forgetting the real aim of life, grasping at pleasure, will in time envy him who has exerted himself in meditation. And he instructed his disciples in the following 5 great meditations. The first meditation is the meditation of love, in which you so adjust your heart that you long for the weal and welfare of all beings, including the happiness of your enemies. The second meditation is the meditation of pity, in which you think of all beings in distress, vividly representing in your imagination their sorrows and anxieties, so as to arouse a deep compassion for them in your soul. The third meditation is the meditation of joy, in which you think of the prosperity of others and rejoice with their rejoicings. The fourth meditation is the meditation of impurity, in which you consider the evil consequences of corruption, the effects of sin and disease, how trivial often the pleasure of the moment, and how fatal the consequences. The fifth meditation is the meditation of serenity, in which you rise above love and hate, tyranny and oppression, wealth and want, and regard your own fate with impartial calmness and perfect tranquility. By engaging in these meditations, the disciples of the Buddha arrived at a knowledge of truth. But whether you engage in these particular meditations or not matters little, so as long as your object is truth. So long as your hunger and thirst for the righteousness, which is holy, heart, and blameless life. In your meditations, therefore, let your heart grow and expand with ever-broadening love, until free from all hatred and passion and condemnation. It embraces the whole universe with thoughtful tenderness, and the flower opens its petals to receive the morning light. So open your soul more and more to the glorious light of truth. Soar upward upon the wings of aspiration. Be fearless and believe in the loftiest possibilities. Believe that life of absolute meekness is possible. Believe that a life of stainless purity is possible. Believe that a life of perfect holiness is possible. Believe that the realization of the highest truth is possible. He who so believes climbs rapidly the heavenly hills, whilst the unbelievers continue to grope darkly and painfully in the fog-bound valleys. So believing, so aspiring, so meditating, divinely sweet and beautiful, will be your spiritual experiences and glorious and revelations that will encapture your inward vision. As you realize the divine, love the divine justice, the divine purity, the perfect law of good, or God. Great will be your bliss, and deep your peace. Old things will pass away, and all things will become new. The veil of the material universe, so dense and impenetrable to the eye of error, so thin and gauzy to the eye of truth, will be lifted, and the spiritual universe will be revealed. Time will cease, and you will live only in the eternity. Change and morality will no longer cause you anxiety and sorrow, for you will become established in the unchangeable and will dwell in the very heart of immortality. And it's followed by a short poem called The Star of Wisdom. Star that the birth of Vishnu, birth of Krishna, Buddha, Jesus, told the wise ones, heavenward looking, waiting, watching for thy gleaming in the darkness of the nighttime, in the starless gloom of midnight, shining herald of the coming of the kingdom of the righteous, tellers of the mystic story of the lowly birth of Godhead, in the stable of the passions, in the manger of the mind soul, silent singer of the secret, of compassion deep and holy, to the heart with sorrow burdened, to the soul with waiting weary. Star of all suppressing brightness, thou again dost deck the midnight. Thou again dost cheer the wise ones, watching in the creedal darkness. Weary of the endless battle, with the grinding blade of error, tired of lifeless, useless idols, of the dead form of religions, spent with watching for thy shining, thou hast ended their despairings, thou hast lighted up their pathway, thou hast brought again the old truths to the heart of all thy watchers, to the souls of them that love thee. Thou dost speak of joy and gladness, of the peace that comes of sorrow. Blessed are they that can see thee, weary wanderers in the nighttime. Blessed they who feel the throbbing in their bosoms, feel pulsing, of a deep love stirred within them by the great power of thy shining. Let us learn thy lesson truly, learn it faithfully and humbly, learn it meekly, wisely, gladly. Ancient star of holy Vishnu, light of Krishna, Buddha, Jesus. That's it, guys. Thanks for listening. Have a wonderful day. Love y'all.